Hi, I'm Chris with Sanderson Test Prep, and in today's teaching tip, I want to talk about movement and how movement can be used effectively in the classroom. So movement can be used for two things primarily. And the first is classroom management, which means keeping students in line. How do we keep our students from talking, from getting distracted, from going on devices, phones, tablets, and laptops if you do invite technology into the classroom? How do we make sure that students are paying attention to our lesson, maybe not trying to complete a homework assignment for another class? So one really great way to perform a little bit of classroom management and make sure that students are staying engaged is through movement. And it's a very quiet way of ensuring that students are staying focused in the class. And so what you can do is, if you notice a couple students are chatting, having a little conversation, if it starts to get to a point where you feel like it could potentially be disruptive, simply move a little closer to those students' desk. In that very subtle act of moving closer, if there's a teacher standing near your desk as a student, by nature, your nature is going to be to re-engage. You're going to end that conversation with your friend sitting next to you. You're going to look back to the front of the room, start listening again, start taking notes again, and getting back into the class. The other reason that movement is such an effective way of doing this is it allows us to continue teaching without having to disrupt our own lesson. As a teacher, if you're pausing your own lesson every few minutes to discipline a student or invite a student to re-engage, and you say, "Hey, Billy, Frank, can you guys cut that conversation out back there? Eyes up here, please." Okay, what was I saying? And you have to reset and get back into your teaching of your concept or whatever it is that you're covering in class. Maybe you're covering a math problem, maybe you're teaching a history lesson, but you have to reset. And then a few minutes later, you say, "Hey, Sharon, can you put your phone away, please?" So if you're doing that every few minutes during a class, not only is it harder on you as the teacher to maintain focus on what it is that you're trying to teach, but also the other students who were fully engaged, now they're listening to a lesson that's pretty choppy and pretty disrupted, and those other students are more likely to disengage and get a little distracted or lose focus. So to keep everybody engaged and everybody involved, if you simply use movement to help quiet a couple students over here, or maybe you use a little movement to get closer to a student's desk who's using a phone or a laptop or an iPad when they shouldn't be, then it's a great way for those students to re-engage without you having to disrupt your own lesson as a teacher. So movement is a great tool for classroom management and something that we should use effectively in our teaching every day. And I'm one of those old school thinkers when it comes to teaching. I do think that teaching should be something that is done standing up. I think that it is, in a sense, not to sound too hokey, but I think it's a performance art. And we really should hold ourselves as teachers to that standard where, it is very easy to, have those days where we're just feeling a little tired and we say, "You know what? I'm gonna kind of sit behind my desk and say, okay, everyone work on, like page 38. And we aren't up in front of the room. We aren't as engaged with the students, and it's a little bit more disconnected. And usually those are the lessons where the students aren't gaining as much. So to maximize the effectiveness of our teaching, we can be up in front of students, providing that energy to the room, and we can also use movement to maximize classroom management. Another great tool that we can use movement for is for assessment. It's necessary for us to properly assess our students. We don't get 100% feedback on 100% of the concepts or problems that we cover in a classroom setting. So we need to move around the room to see how everyone's doing. Because while a few students might raise their hand and ask a question when it comes up, not every student is going to provide that feedback. And movement is a very great way. As we're walking around, take a peek down at your students' desks and just see, what's everybody writing? How's everyone doing on these problems? If you notice that everyone seems to be taking the right kinds of notes, maybe jotting down the same main idea that you intended, then hey, I explained that topic well. I clearly communicated what I wanted them to learn, and it looks like we're all on the same page. If you notice that students have a lot of question marks, maybe on an individual problem or for a topic that you covered, you're taking a peek at the notes that they're writing down, and you notice, oh, they're not really writing down what I wanted them to get out of this, then maybe that's a good indication as a teacher that we want to take a step back and see if we can re-explain a little bit more effectively so that we're clearly communicating the ideas that we want to communicate to our students. So movement is a great way to assess your students in your room so that you know whether or not students are getting out of the lesson what you intended for them to get out of that lesson. So again, movement, use it in your classes, helps with classroom management, great for assessment, helps you be a better teacher, and most importantly, it makes it a better learning experience for your students. For more, please feel free to like or subscribe, and thanks for watching.